Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and the rest of the Stop the Steal gang went after Smartmatic. They dropped crazy allegations, like Smartmatic was controlled by Venezuelan dictators and their software was especially designed to fix elections. And Smartmatic is pissed off. On Thursday, February 4th, 2021, Smartmatic filed an absolutely epic lawsuit naming Fox News, Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo, Jeanine Pirro, Rudy Giuliani, and Sidney Powell as defendants. They are asking for $2.7 billion plus punitive damages. And this case is no joke. Remember all of these Stop the Steal lawsuits? I did a video which should be in the upper right now. As pretty much everyone knows, those lawsuits did not go anywhere, and they essentially produced no evidence of widespread voter fraud. However, they did recite some absolutely epic conspiracy theories. One of those conspiracy theories involved Smartmatic, which by all indications is a pretty well-established voting software and systems company that's been around for a bit more than 20 years. And while Smartmatic has, at least according to the complaint, had success in establishing itself as a trusted election systems company outside of the United States, it had very limited success in the US. That changed in 2020 when it got a break. It supplied software and systems for the election in Los Angeles County. And that is where the, wacky conspiracy theories that Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani started pressing about Smartmatic apparently got their start. The introduction to this lawsuit only takes up 3 pages and is absolutely epic. So let's review it. Introduction. The earth is round. 2 + 2 = 4. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 election for President and Vice President of the United States. The election was not stolen, rigged, or fixed. These are facts. They are demonstrable and irrefutable. Defendants have always known these facts. They knew Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 U.S. election. They knew the election was not stolen. They knew the election was not rigged or fixed. They knew these truths just as they knew the earth is round and 2 + 2 = 4. Defendants did not want Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to win the election. They wanted Donald Trump and Vice President Michael Pence to win re-election. Defendants were disappointed, but they also saw an opportunity to capitalize on President Trump's popularity by inventing a story. Defendants decided to tell people that the election was stolen from President Trump and Vice President Pence. Defendants had an obvious problem with their story. They needed a villain. They needed someone to blame. They needed someone whom they could get others to hate. A story of good versus evil, the type that would incite an angry mob, only works if the storyteller provides the audience with someone who personifies evil. Without any true villain, defendants invented one. Defendants decided to make Smartmatic the villain in their story. Smartmatic is an election technology and software company. It was incorporated in Delaware, and its U.S. operations are headquartered in Florida. In the 2020 U.S. election, Smartmatic provided election technology and software in Los Angeles County. Nowhere else. Smartmatic had a relatively small, non-controversial role in the 2020 U.S. election. Those facts would not do for defendants. So the defendants invented new ones. In their story, Smartmatic was a Venezuelan company under the control of corrupt dictators from socialist countries. In their story, Smartmatic's technology and software were used in many of the states with close outcomes. And in their story, Smartmatic was responsible for stealing the 2020 election by switching and altering votes to rig the election for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Having invented their story and created their villain, defendants set about spreading the word. In November and December 2020, Fox News broadcasted 13 reports stating and implying that Smartmatic had stolen the 2020 U.S. election. They repeated the story in articles and social media postings. Night after night, publication after publication, Fox News reached out to its millions of viewers and readers around the world with a story. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did not win the 2020 election. Smartmatic stole the election for them. Defendants' story evolved over time as they claimed evidence had come to their attention supporting the story. The story came to consist of 8 themes. Smartmatic's election technology and software were widely used in the 2020 U.S. election, including in 6 states with close outcomes. Smartmatic's election technology and software were used by Dominion Voting Systems Corporation, Dominion, during the 2020 U.S. election. Smartmatic's election technology and software were used to steal the 2020 U.S. election by rigging and fixing the vote. Smartmatic's election technology and software sent votes to foreign countries for tabulation and manipulation during the 2020 U.S. election. Smartmatic's election technology and software were compromised and hacked during the 2020 U.S. election. Smartmatic was previously banned from being used in U.S. elections. Smartmatic is a Venezuelan company that was founded and funded by corrupt dictators from socialist and communist countries, and Smartmatic's election technology and software were designed to rig and fix elections. Defendant's story was a lie, all of it, and they knew it. But it was a story that sold. Millions of individuals who saw and read defendant's reports believed them to be true. Smartmatic and its officers began to receive hate mail and death threats. Smartmatic's clients and potential clients began to panic. The company's reputation for providing transparent, auditable, and secure election technology and software was irreparably harmed. Overnight, Smartmatic went from an under-the-radar election company with a track record of success to the villain in defendant's disinformation campaign. Smartmatic's loss was defendant's gain. Fox News used the story to preserve its grip on viewers and readers and curry favors with the outgoing administration. One of their anchors was even able to get a pardon for her ex-husband. Ms. Powell used the story to raise money and enrich herself. Mr. Giuliani used the story to guarantee himself a flow of funds from the sitting president and to sell products. Defendants knew the story could not change the outcome of the election. It could and did make them money. The story, of course, did more than just make defendants money and jeopardize Smartmatic's survival. The story undermined people's belief in democracy. The story turned neighbor against neighbor. The story led a mob to attack the U.S. Capitol. Defendants started a fire for selfish and financial reasons, and they cared not for the damage their story caused to Smartmatic, its officers and employees, and the country. With this action, Smartmatic says, enough. Fact matter, truth matters. Defendants engaged in a conspiracy to spread disinformation about Smartmatic. They lied, and they did so knowingly and intentionally. Smartmatic seeks to hold them accountable for those lies and for the damage that their lies have caused. Smartmatic brings 16 claims against defendants for defamation and disparagement. Smartmatic seeks to recover in excess of $2.7 billion for the economic and non-economic damages caused by defendants' disinformation campaign, as well as punitive damages. Finally, Smartmatic seeks a declaration requiring defendants to fully and completely retract their false statements and implications. Wow. Just wow. That lawsuit is absolutely incredible. My first reaction to this lawsuit is that the attorneys involved in this case, two partners from Benish's office right here in Chicago, seem to be driving this case. But these guys, these attorneys, are some of the luckiest attorneys on the face of the earth, because this is a great case. And it's clearly going to be a lot of fun to litigate. I am flat out jealous of the guys at Benish that are going to be working on this case. Case in point, let's look at just one of the statements that this case is based on. This is from the November 19th episode of Lou Dobbs Tonight and taken from paragraphs 118 to 120 of the complaint. On November 19th, Mr. Dobbs continued his role in the disinformation campaign on Lou Dobbs Tonight. He started his program by playing a portion of a press conference held by Mr. Giuliani, introducing the clips with his own statements. Mr. Dobbs: the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, leading the charge today. Giuliani says the radical Dems' control and power was consolidated in a coordinated effort to steal the election from President Trump. Mr. Giuliani: what emerged very quickly is this is not a singular voter fraud in one state. The pattern repeats itself in a number of states, almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud specifically focused on big cities, and specifically focused on, as you would imagine, big cities controlled by Democrats, and particularly focused on big cities that have a long history of corruption. Mr. Dobbs: another issue at the center of today's news conference, the use of Dominion voting machines and Smartmatic software. Defense attorney Sidney Powell cited a whistleblower's stunning affidavit. It says Smartmatic's technology was used to rig elections in Venezuela. It is now in the, quote, DNA of every vote tabulating software and system. Smartmatic and Dominion deny these charges. but Sidney Powell argues that algorithms in the Smartmatic software were used to change results in the presidential election. Ms. Powell, the software itself was created with so many variables and so many backdoors that can be hooked up to the internet or a thumb drive stuck in it or whatever. But one of its most characteristic features is its ability to flip votes. It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system, and that's what caused them to have to shut down in states they shut down in. That when they came in the back door with all the mail-in ballots, many of which they had actually fabricated. Mr. Dobbs then described Ms. Powell as a great American and one of the country's leading appellate attorneys. Mr. Dobbs and Ms. Powell then returned to two of the themes they decided would play a central role in the disinformation campaign, falsely claiming a relationship between Smartmatic and Dominion, and falsely claiming that Smartmatic sent votes to foreign countries for manipulation during the 2020 U.S. election. Mr. Dobbs, let's turn to Smartmatic and Dominion. Are they or are they not linked? Ms. Powell, oh, they're definitely linked. I would call them inextricably intertwined. They have the same history from inception. I'm sure they're trying to distance themselves from each other, but the fact is that the Dominion machines run the Smartmatic software and are part of the key code of it. And that is what allows them to manipulate the votes in any way the operator chooses to manipulate them. Mr. Dobbs, there has been great controversy as well as, about reports of a raid on a company, Seidel, in Germany, which held election data, presumably, and a raid that was carried out by U.S. forces, or so goes the report, although the forces themselves were not clearly identified nor the event actually proven. Can you tell us what actually did happen here that you do know? Ms. Powell, well, I know that is one of the server centers. There's also one in Barcelona, so it is related to the entire Smartmatic Dominion software operation. Mr. Dobbs, and it's the presumption then that they had the records on those servers of all the votes that were processed by Dominion or Smartmatic. Ms. Powell, yes. The way it works, the votes can be changed either on the ground as they come in. People can watch the votes streaming live. For example, there was a Dominion employee high ranking at the Detroit Center the night of the election. He could have watched the votes come in live and manipulated them in that process. It could have run an automatic algorithm against all the votes, which we believe is what actually happened. And then the machines had to stop the counting had to stop in multiple places because President Trump's lead was so great at that point. They had to stop the vote counting and come in and backfill the votes they needed to change the result. Mr. Dobbs again ended his discussion with Ms. Powell with an endorsement of her statements and affirmation that Smartmatic had stolen the election. Ms. Powell, but like I said, it's just a massive amount of information right now. We've got let me put it this way. There's thousands of people in federal prison on far less evidence of criminal conduct than we have already against the Smartmatic and Dominion Systems companies. And most of the companies in the country run the same sort of software or have that code in their software. So it's more widespread. Mr. Dobbs. And incredibly, one of the benefits of this may be that we will learn who actually owns these companies. We have just watched to everyone in this audience tonight. Our election is run by companies, the ownership of which we don't know. Sidney Powell is among those trying to change all that. Sidney Powell, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. These statements are absolutely damning against Sidney Powell, and especially when you combine them with many other statements made on Mr. Dobbs' show and other opinion shows on Fox News. They're problematic for Fox News too and may very well lead to liability for Fox. Some of you may remember a previous lawsuit against Fox that I covered. It should be in the upper corner right now. For that case, I came right out and said that the plaintiff had no chance because they did not even allege the elements of a tort. That is just not the case here. In this case, Smartmatic has alleged 9 counts of defamation and 7 counts of commercial disparagement. These are very similar causes of action. Not identical, but very similar. For this video, let's just take a quick look at the element of defamation. First, there has to be a false statement. Check. Giuliani and Powell made numerous false statements and Fox published them. I would even go so far as to say that certain Fox hosts, Lou Dobbs in particular, apparently made false statements as well. Second, the false statement has to have been published. Again, Broadcasting the statement live on television to a few million people qualifies as publishing the statement, so check. Third, we're either dealing with a matter of public concern or possibly a public figure. I expect that Smartmatic will not be classified as a public figure. However, this is undoubtedly a matter of public concern and will cover the standard for both cases. If an alleged defamatory statement is about a matter of public concern, and the integrity of our elections is definitely a matter of concern to every American, then the publication of the false statement had to be at least negligent. In this case, if what Smartmatic is alleging is true, that's an easy standard to meet. On the other hand, if Smartmatic is a public figure, then Smartmatic will have to prove actual malice, which is a very high standard. If Smartmatic is found to be a public figure, they'll have to prove that the people making and publishing the statements actually knew they were false. And even if Smartmatic is found to be a public figure, Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani are still likely going to end up on the hook, and I think Fox News is still going to have a very tough go at it. Ultimately, this case is going to be incredibly hard for Giuliani and Sidney Powell and Fox News and everybody else to defend. The defendants have to get this case out before trial if they're going to have any chance of winning. I'm not saying I'm an expert in defamation cases. I've worked on them, but I'm not going to claim to be an expert. However, I know how you defend someone in court. And the way that you do that is you stand up, you look every member of the jury square in the eye, and you say your client did nothing wrong and you mean it. Given the statements that were made about Smartmatic, how is any attorney going to do that? Anyways, that is what I have for you for today. I really look forward to seeing where this case leads, and I'll definitely follow up on it as it progresses. I really hope this case is televised. I would love to break down Rudy being cross-examined about some of these statements. If you enjoyed this content, a like would be very much appreciated, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Have a great day. Look after yourself and your family as the pandemic winds down. The numbers are dropping fast, so don't get COVID now, and take care.